Hello, this is L317 with Intrepid Interactive, and in this video I'm going to show you some of the tips and tricks I wish I knew when I started. If you're selected in the middle and you don't like trying to line it up that way, you can select the one you want by deselecting and reselecting, and that is going to put the anchor on the last one that you chose in that line, making it easier to line it up. When you're playtesting your game, sometimes the effects won't show or projectiles will be firing in a strange direction. So what I've commonly done in projects is I will take a sphere, I will remove all of the collision, and then I will place it at 0, 0, 0, so that when playtesting you can observe the 0, 0, 0 point. The default game mode is the one that all of the levels are going to use. It's going to have the default pawn class, which is usually the character that you play as. Which controller you use, that's a big deal, and this is going to be the default. But if you want a map to have a specific one, you can go here and override it with the game mode override and use a different game mode. So if you wanted to capture the flag, or you wanted to make it so that it's like the main menu or the lobby, you could set your game mode up here, and you go to download settings. This is going to be the install directory for when you use assets off the marketplace. And right here, the library data cache directory, if you don't change this, it will eventually fill up your C drive, and if that's where you have Windows, it can start to cause problems. When you're inside of a character and you want to set up a location for, say, spawning a projectile, or maybe where the character will come in and out of a vehicle, or basically you just want to set a location. What I used to do is I would add a static mesh, and then I would pick a cube and I would get rid of all the collision, and then I would place it where I wanted to. But there is an arrow component that you can apply. Say, if you wanted to spawn a projectile from there, there's a better way to do it, but this is just giving you an example. It would be directly where this anchor is where that location is. But the good thing is the arrow doesn't have any collision and isn't visible in the game. So let's say you've got two nodes that are really far apart and you want to connect them. What I used to do is drag and move and move and move and come all the way over here and then connect it. But you don't have to do that. If you simply hold shift, click, and then hold shift and click, it will connect those 2 points no matter how far apart they are. Control is a get. So when you bring a variable into the event graph, if you hold control, it'll become a get. And if you hold alt and bring it in, it will make it a set. And normally what I would do is bring it in and then have to pick one. This just saves you that little bit of time. You can take any large group of code. So I can take all of this code, Control C to copy it. I can bring it into a text document, Control V, right? And now it's saved in this text document. I can hit Control A to grab everything, Control C again to put it in the clipboard, and then come over here and Control V, and it's copied. And that's a good way to transfer it in between projects. If you're in the anim graph and you type not and hit enter, you get the not equal. So what I've found is if you type not B, that gives you the not. Adjust the resolution on all of these textures. I could grab them all, right click, and you want to go to bulk edit via property matrix. An interesting one is the maximum texture size. If you wanted to set them all to be 256, you could do that here, and then they are all now set to 256. Bulk edit via property matrix. So now all 7 of those are being adjusted in this one window. And a big one that I've found is if assets come off the marketplace too loud, you can set those to a lower volume. And now if you look, they're all changed. If you're inside of a blueprint and you have custom events, so we'll call this set scale. All right, and what this will do is, let's set actor scale 3D, right? We're just going to make them 50% larger. And we'll do begin play, delay. We'll say 2 seconds, set scale, right? So now in this blueprint, 2 seconds are going to go by and it's going to make them 50% larger. Now if I copy this and I move it into another actor because I want to use that code. Now you'll see that right here we've got red lines, and when I hit compile, those red lines don't go away. Now what I used to do is come in here and recreate the node. You don't have to do that. You can actually leave it like it is, save it broken. Now when you open it back up, those broken nodes will have fixed themselves automatically. See, now when we open this back up, everything is good to go. I didn't have to delete or rename or anything like that. So if you have extremely complicated multiple custom events going on, when you copy it and move it to another blueprint, if you're getting a lot of errors and red lines, just compile, save, close the editor, reopen the project, and it will self-correct. The reference viewer is huge because you can see what things are attached to this character. The character is in this level, so this level is going to show up on the reference viewer. Third-person game mode uses this character as the default pawn. This character uses that in a blueprint and this skeletal mesh. And you can use this to figure out what things are tied together when you migrate assets to a different project, or if you're trying to figure out what's being loaded into memory. Something else, when you are creating your code, I would recommend using as many of the things that Epic Games has provided under the hood to use. So vent any damage, for example. Now a lot of people I've seen in templates use interfaces because they want to create special functionality with the damage, but if you're just getting started out, this is great because it's already network replicated. All of that's already working under the hood, and there are custom events that are already written by Epic, like apply damage, right? So it's going to be using those same damage variables as it comes through. Instead of using, let's say, set actor rotation. Now you can use that, but I've found that when you're doing multiplayer, you're going to have desync with the client and the server. Instead, if you set control rotate, oh, I think I need, right, and now you can, right, so this control rotation is going to be already replicated under the hood. So when you use this to rotate your character, which is going to be, I think, in the character movement. Yep, so use controller desired rotation. When you're trying to use rotation over the network, you're going to want to use this to make it work so that you're not fighting with the client and the server mismatch. Right click, find references, and it'll show you everywhere in the blueprint. So if I was using this over and over again, find references, and then go through these one at a time and figure out where they're being used. Now, if this variable is being referenced and used in multiple blueprints, you can actually hit this binocular, and it'll show up every time that variable has been used. So if it's in multiple blueprints, you're going to have all those different blueprints, and every time that variable has been used, you can actually double-click and go to each one. If I create a blueprint, let's make it a pawn, why not? And this will be in-game pawn. Right. So in here, if I were to create a variable, let's call it health. Okay. This is what's funny about Unreal Engine is that there are multiple ways to do the exact same thing. So let's make this a float. So you can click this little eye, right? And then when I drag this into the world, that variable health is now exposed when you are using it in the map. I can now set that health. Now what's funny is I don't have to do that. I don't have to check that eye. I can click on health and then come over here to instance editable, and it's the same exact thing. That's two ways to do the exact same thing. And then when I come into the game world, there's that variable again. Now what's funny is if you want that variable to be exposed when you create this actor at runtime with spawning, if you click expose on spawn and check that, now let's say I wanted the player character to create one of those. So let's say spawn actor from class, right? So if we do in-game pawn here, if I click this, now you'll see that the health variable is exposed on spawn. That's what they mean by that. See, what I used to do is I would create the character, and then I would come out here and I would set health when the character was created, or after the character was created. But you don't have to do that if you expose it on spawn. It's going to come out with the health variable that you set right here. And that's huge. You can do that with bools, any variable. So if I create this boolean is fighting, and I make it instance editable expose on spawn, now when I go in here and I refresh this node, there's is fighting. So when he comes out, I don't have to set it here. It's exposed on spawn already. All right, that'll wrap it up on this video. Hopefully these quick tips will help save you some time, because that's why I made this. I'm working on a tutorial that will be making a full game from start to finish. It'll be very basic, but it'll help beginners be able to load Unreal, pick some basic functionality, build, cook the game, everything, and then have a distributable package that they can share. And that's upcoming. Go to my website, my YouTube channel, check out some of the stuff I'm working on. I've got games on the way, some early access stuff. I'm excited. Check it out. Thanks for watching.